As much as I'd love to have everything brought to me at all times in this on-demand world, unfortunately it's necessary to sometimes actually leave my house. I know, this is the worst, but I guess it's part of being a person. Or with the touch of a button, I could order a car right to my doorstep, or Curb. Formerly Taxi Magic, Curb is a car service app that brings a cab right to your door, so I don't actually have to go very far. I'm about to chat with Curb CEO Pat Lashinsky about what the marketplace is like for car sharing apps right now. Obviously, we couldn't do that here, so I met him on the curb outside. I felt I needed to meet you on the curb.
That's exactly right. This is where the journey starts.
So here's the Curb, and I'm with the CEO of Curb.
Well, we love it. The Curb name we came about because most rides start on a curb, and usually you end at the curb.
True.
And so it's like we're going from the beginning to the end to give you the safest experience you can get.
Curbs are just like, I think they're underrated.
People just look at them and forget all the utility that there is.
I know so much.
So Curb works with, it's basically an option where it allows you to go ahead and make it much easier to be able to get a cab than traditional. So instead of having to go outside and wave and try and find a cab or to hope that one comes by that's available when you want it, you can download the app, you can press a button and say, I'm ready for a cab to come now, I'd like a cab to come in an hour, I'm getting ready to finish my drink, I'd like one in 20 minutes, and the GPS on your phone will tell them right where to go. It'll find the nearest cab and have it come right to you.
So I know that there has been all of this legislation. Let me start that again. There's been a lot of legislation. There's been some legal stuff going on. So I know there's been a lot of legal stuff going on in this space.
Sure.
What's going on, and can you break it down for me?
So I think that what's caused this is that there are what are known as TNCs in the space, which are these transportation companies like a Lyft or a Sidecar or an Uber who've come in and said, we're going to allow people to drive cars, but we're not going to do the regulations that cabs and black cars have had to be in. And so the challenge for cities and for states has been, how do we make sure that people are safe? How do we make sure that there's insurance? How do we make sure that they're abiding by regulations? And how do we make sure we're getting our piece of the taxes that normally go to rides?
Right.
And so those places none of those issues existed to deal with these type of companies. And they kind of came in and said, well, we're going to do it anyway, and we'll deal with it afterwards. And as they've grown in popularity, cities have said, we have to come up with a better way of dealing with this versus just letting them go. And so the great thing that we have in working with cabs is we've already been all the way through that. And we only work with cabs, black cars that are already regulated. And so we don't have those
professional
issues.
drivers.
Professional drivers who are insured, they're required to have certain background checks that are updated frequently. And the insurance is really a big part of this element that's out there. And so we don't have to deal with that, but the legislation is really around how do we put controls and make it so it's not just a hitchhiking environment, which is kind of what some people have attributed it to. You push a button, someone shows up, you don't know who they are, you don't know where they came from, you get in the car with them, and they drop you off somewhere. And usually it works good, but occasionally it doesn't.
Yeah.
And so the legislation is really around how do we protect that and make sure that we're putting the right kind of public goods. The other thing that's happened is taxis have almost had a utility purpose within the scope. They're required to pick up anyone who hails them. They're required to have the ability to pick up disabled folks. They're required to go to anywhere in the city and be able to do that. Well, these other companies didn't have any of these regulations, and so they could pick and choose. And some people said, wait, isn't the concept that we're supposed to be making transportation cheaper for everyone, not just the rich?
Right.
And is this supposed to be, a 1% product, or is this supposed to be for everyone? And so the legislation is really around saying, let's try to even the play field and let's make sure everyone can take advantage of the opportunities that are out there.
High five.
All right, nicely done.